So if you're doing your GCSEs, then that should be really simple because you have your 3 compulsory subjects, English, Maths and Science, and then you have an additional 4 options, so that's seven subjects in total, and there's 7 days of the week, so that's just 1 subject for each day of the week that you can revise for. If it's A levels that you're doing, then that might be a bit more complex because you can have like 3, 4 or 5 different subjects, so then it's really down to you how you're going to allocate each of your subjects to each day of the week. But it's important that you allocate an equal amount of time for each subject, because in the beginning, when you're first starting out your revision, it's very important that you give equal amounts of time to each subject so that you don't neglect one subject and just completely focus on another subject. Then of course, once you get closer to exam time, then you can maybe prioritize more time for one specific subject, because by then you'll know which subjects need more attention and you wouldn't have neglected any of the other subjects. You'd have given equal amounts of time to each one. Once you make your revision timetable, just snazz it up and then put it on your lock screen. And I know a lot of you probably wouldn't want to sacrifice your lock screen because you like your lock screen, but think of it this way. I told one of my students this, because I'm a tutor, I told one of my students this as well, like, think of it this way: once you finish your exams, you'll be able to change your lock screen back, and that's your reward for finishing your exams, getting your old lock screen back. So yeah, and if you have it on your lock screen, it's going to be really easy for you to access it. You just, every time you open your phone, you'll see it, and also it'll remind you to study because it's always there whenever you open your phone. The next thing you need to do is designate a specific spot in your house for studying. That's very important, because once you have like a specific spot in your subconscious mind, you're always going to associate that spot with studying. So once you get into that, you know, area of your house, whether that be your desk, like a specific corner of your room, your bed, then you're straight away going to go into study mode. Your brain is going to go into study mode thinking, okay, I'm in this spot now, that means it's time to study, because in your subconscious mind you've associated that spot with studying, so it's going to help you get in the zone much easier. The third thing that you need to do is then you need to get a container. So it can be anything, like a jar, like a glass jar, that might be nicer, or you can get a rubbish container like me. And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to get slips of paper, little slips of paper, cut them out, and on one you're going to write look, cover, write, check. If you don't know what that is, I've made a video on it before. It's basically an active recall technique. Just go check out the video if you're not entirely sure, but it's basically self-explanatory anyway. You're looking at the information, you're covering it, then you're writing it out and you're checking to see if you've written it correctly. Check the video again, like, if you want to know how to do it effectively. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So one of them would be look, cover, write, check, another one would be mind maps, another one would be blurting, and then another one would be YouTube videos. So just any kind of revision technique, like I've listed some for you. If you know any other revision techniques, then just write them down on a slip of paper, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it up and put it in the container. And then every time you sit down for your study session, based on which, you know, subject you're studying for the day, based on your revision timetable, you're going to shake up the container, pick out a random slip of paper, and then you're going to open it, read it, and then whatever it says, that's what you're going to do for your study session. So that way you're making sure that you're doing all these different kinds of revision techniques rather than just focusing on one specific revision technique, which is crucial at this stage. So then by the time you get to the 3-month, 4-month mark, closer to exam time, you'd know which revisions techniques work best for you because you've tried loads of different ones, and then you're going to be able to just completely do the revision techniques that you know have worked best for you, rather than doing all these different ones. And then obviously that's going to really maximize your potential in your studying, because you're using the revision techniques that work best for you, because obviously we all learn in different ways. Some of us are visual learners, some of us are auditory learners like me, some of us are kinesthetic learners, so we learn by being hands-on. So it's important you pick and choose different revision techniques in the beginning, so when you're closer to exam time, which is the crucial time, you know which ones work for you. The fourth thing that you need to do is when you're in the middle of your revision, you know, your revision session, instead of making notes, what you're going to do is you're going to make flashcards. So your flashcards are your notes. Your notes are literally your flashcards. So that way, basically, you know, when you have your notes and you're going over them, like, you know, in the future, like if you're going to be reading back through your notes, that's, you know, that might help some people, but it's not going to be as effective as using flashcards, because notes is passive recall. You're just reading the notes. That's not really going to get it into your head properly. When you're making flashcards as your notes, then basically that flashcard is your note. You can literally go back through the flashcards and just read it as a note. so it still works the same, but also it's a revision tool, so it's 2 in 1, because you can do active recall. So whenever like you're closer to exams and you're thinking, okay, I want to go back over my notes for quantitative chemistry, then just go and find your flashcards for quantitative chemistry and then read them and then go through them, do the flashcards for them. That is a form of active recall because you're forcing the information to go to the forefront of your mind. So it's 2 in 1. It's notes and it's a revision tool if you're making the notes as your flashcards, as in the flashcards as your notes, instead of just making notes on a notebook, because that's not going to help you revise them effectively. Additionally, once you've made your flashcards, you need to, if you're going to be doing it digitally, then I would recommend you get the app called Study Smarter, because it's really good, because basically you can organise your flashcards into different sections, so then it's easier for you to go back through and find them. It's more accessible based on like which subject and which topic that you're looking for. And also it has this thing called spaced repetition, which is really good. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be learning them, and as you're learning them, the app's algorithm sorts the flashcards based on how well you know them, and then it recommends you study specific ones after varying amounts of time based on how well you know them. So it's able to get all of the flashcards into your head bit by bit, one by one, based on how well you know them, rather than you having to bulk revise loads of flashcards. And if you're doing paper flashcards instead of digital, then I've got another technique that you can do that mimics the spaced repetition algorithm on Study Smarter. So basically you're going to get 3 containers like this. Maybe try and get some nicer containers instead of like really rubbish ones like this, but I'm just using these for, example purposes. So in one container you're going to have your set of daily flashcards, and these are going to be flashcards that you have newly made. And then in another container you're going to have the weekly ones, and in another container you're going to have the monthly ones. So obviously monthly is stuff that you know really well, or stuff that you've been practicing for a while. Weekly is stuff that you haven't practice as much. So in the beginning, what may end up happening if you don't have any of these and all of your flashcards are just in daily. So what you're going to be doing is every day, closing the name daily, you're going to be practicing these, and then if you don't know them as well, then they stay in daily, but if you know them quite well, you can move them on to weekly. So then as time goes on, you're going to end up building a weekly flashcard pile, and these are obviously going to be practiced once a week. If you know them, fairly well, then they can stay in weekly. If you know them really, really well, then they can move to monthly. And then what's going to end up happening is, again, over time, you're going to end up building a monthly flashcard pile. And then going back to weekly, if you don't know the flashcard that well, then it can stay in weekly, but if you're really bad at it and you have no idea, then you can just move it back to daily. And then monthly, obviously you're going to be doing these flashcards once a month on a specific day of the month. If you know the flashcard really well, then that's great, it can stay in monthly. If you don't know it that well, then it skips weekly and goes all the way back to daily. And then this basically mimics the spaced repetition algorithm. It's going to separate the flashcards out based on how well you know them, and over time it's going to get each one into your head, into your long term. This is not my technique, I've said this before, this is actually Henry Brand's technique, another YouTuber. Go check out his YouTube channel, he's got some really good stuff on there. The fifth thing that you're going to do once you've made your flashcard notes, your flashcards, is basically you're going to record yourself reading them. And I know like a lot of people probably hate the sound of their voice, it is a bit cringe, but just think of it this way, you're the only one that's going to be listening to it, not anybody else. So just get over the cringe and the discomfort, just get past it, and it will be so beneficial for you. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be recording yourself reading them. Like most people, they have a voice recorder built into their phone as default. If not, then you can just download a free one from App Store. And then what you're going to do is just record yourself, and then while you're reading it and recording yourself, read it in a funny voice or read it in the tune to a nursery rhyme, because then what's going to happen with that is that because you're reading it in an unusual way, it's going to stick in your head more, because we are hardwired to remember unusual information better. Like for example, like you probably won't remember what you had for breakfast last Monday, but if you saw like a person riding a bike and they crashed their bike into a lamppost last Monday, you're going to remember that, right? Because it's unusual, it doesn't happen every day. It's the same thing with the nursery rhyme kind of thing and the unusual way that you're reading your flashcards. So when you're listening to it, like you can just plug in your headphones and you can listen to it anywhere, like while you're doing your chores, on the way to college, on the way to work. And then what's going to happen is that is going to slowly work its way into your memory. And then this actually worked for me when I was in my actual physical A-level exam. In my head I was just playing that that recording in my head, like obviously not actually playing it, but like in my head I was playing it in my head because I'd listened to it so much. So then I could literally hear myself reciting the information. That helped me to write it down in my actual exam paper. So it does work, especially if you read it in an unusual way. And then finally, the fifth thing that you need to do is at the end of each of your revision sessions every day, do an exam question based on the subject that you're revising for that day. So if you're revising science that day because it's Monday, and on your revision timetable you've written down science on Monday, then you're going to be doing a science exam question at the end of your revision session. And you can just find the exam questions on Physics and Maths Tutor. They have literally everything on there, all of the exam papers, all of the individual exam question packs. Just do one every single day. It's really important that you get exam practice in, because it's all fine and dandy knowing like the content, but if you can't actually apply it and if you don't develop your exam technique, you're not going to actually be able to perform. It's like when you're learning to drive, like you can know all the theory like off by heart, you can like learn the entire highway code, but then if you don't actually know how to physically drive, like if you don't get in the car and drive yourself, you're not actually going to be able to perform very well. You're not going to know how to drive, even if you know the entire highway code off by heart, you're not going to be able to drive. It's really important that you get exam practice in. That's essential. If you can do more than one exam question, like if you can do 2 or 3 or 4 every single day, that's even better. And obviously once you get closer to the actual exam season, like the 3-month, 4-month mark, then you'd want to do like entire exam question paper, like entire past papers, rather than just one every single day, because obviously you need to be revising more, you need to be getting more practice in at that point. But in the beginning you can just start off by doing 1 or 2 exam questions a day, and that's going to help you slowly build up your exam technique, because then you're going to be getting used to what the examiners want from you, especially in science. Like I remember GCSE science, the examiners and the answer sheet, the exam answer sheet is so specific in what it wants. Like you can have like a really perfect word for word answer, but then you might miss like one key word that they were looking for, and then that's it, you lost a mark. So it's really important that you learn what the examiners want from you, and the only way you can do that is by practicing exam questions every single day. And yeah, that's about it. I hope this helped, and I hope this inspired you to start revising, and it's given you some idea of where to start if you're absolutely stuck and you don't know how to begin. And yeah, I don't think I have anything left to say, so bye guys, and good luck with your exams. You can do this.